There's been a lot of concern raised about our well-being as the lockdowns have gone on. Rarely a day goes by when it's not mentioned in the news or on one or other social media platform, and quite right too. The impact of having to stay at home, of not being allowed to travel, of not being able to hug and hold those we love, has taken its toll on us all and has been devastating for some. Add to that the worries about jobs, money, and the ability of whole businesses to survive, not to mention the closing of schools and the impact of homeschooling, then it's hardly surprising that there are growing concerns about the long-term consequences on our physical as well as our mental health. Some are suggesting that we'll be living with the impact of the pandemic for a generation. The NHS has identified 5 steps that will help support our well-being, and our Church in Wales schools have taken up the challenge of using these to develop a whole school wellbeing challenge for Lent. There are 4 activities for each of the 5 steps that they're calling mini missions for Lent, a mission a day, which can't be bad. If you're interested in joining them for the whole challenge, then all the information is on our diocesan website in the section on Lent. The 5 steps are: connect with other people, be physically active, learn new skills, give to others, and pay attention to the present moment. I was particularly struck by this last step, because paying attention to the present moment is in fact the foundation of meditative prayer. It's by paying attention that we learn to still our minds and put aside our busyness in order to be able to listen to what God is saying to us and see what God is doing in our lives and in our world. Practices such as focusing on a candle flame, or listening to the sounds around us, or becoming aware of our breathing are all ways of helping us to be in the moment and to pay attention to what's going on. The question I was frequently asked on my retreat a few months ago was, what did you notice? Taking notice then, and paying attention to the present moment, is not only a way of improving our mental well-being, it's a form of prayer that connects us with the source of all well-being, God. One way of marking the season of Lent this year would be to practice taking notice. You might join the children in our schools and practice taking notice of the wonder of God's world as you look out of your window or take your daily walk. You could stop and take time to wonder. You might capture a moment of beauty with a camera to look at and reflect on later. Many people are now doing this and posting some glorious photos on Twitter and Facebook. They can provide us with some amazing material to pray with. Another activity might be to think of 5 things to be thankful for and to use those in your prayer. In the midst of all the awfulness of the pandemic, there are still many good and heartwarming things to be thankful for. Focusing on these can remind us of God's goodness, as well as help us feel more positive about life. Appreciating others is another of the suggestions in the series of mini missions. This is about valuing the people in our lives, people that we so often and so easily take for granted. But it's also about telling those people that we value them by giving them some positive comments. It can make such a difference when people say kind things about us. It helps them and their sense of well-being, but it also helps us. It does us good to give. And perhaps the hardest thing is paying attention to ourselves, taking notice of our own gifts and talents, our skills and experience. On this particular mini-mission day, we're invited to think of 5 good things about ourselves, things that are great about me, as the worksheet says. Paying attention and taking notice, savouring the moment and being fully present to what's going on, spending time acknowledging the good things that God has given us in creation, in other people and in ourselves, just some of the small steps we can take each day to improve our well-being and connect us with God. Not a bad way of spending Lent.